So let's try and explain comparative advantage in just 2 minutes. What's comparative advantage? Basically, a country has a comparative advantage if it can produce the same amount of output at a lower opportunity cost. So what it gives up to produce that same amount of output is lower. Sources of comparative advantage. Well, different countries have different factor endowments and different levels of technology. Back to the example I used in the absolute advantage video, you can see here France has an absolute advantage in both wine and cheese. Does this mean France and Italy shouldn't specialize in trade? No. You can see that France can either produce 7,000 units of wine or 800 units of cheese. Italy can produce 5,000 or 200. So one bottle of wine that France produces, the opportunity cost, what it gives up is 0.114 units of cheese. All I did is I divided both numbers by 7,000. While 1 unit of wine for Italy, what Italy sacrifices is 0.04 units of cheese. Who has a lower sacrifice? Italy. Therefore, Italy has a comparative advantage in wine. You can do the same here for the cheese. You can see that when France produces a unit of cheese, it gives up 8.75 units of wine, while Italy, 1 unit of cheese, it gives up 20 units of wine. Should you give up 8.75 units of wine or 20, you can see here that France has a comparative advantage in the production of cheese. So while France has an absolute advantage in the production of both, France has a comparative advantage in cheese, Italy has a comparative advantage in wine. You can easily find out comparative advantage just by looking at the diagram. Basically, the country that's more efficient will have a comparative advantage in the good with the biggest distance between both PPCs. So France has a comparative advantage in good X, which is cheese. Italy, on the other hand, the country which is less efficient, will have a comparative advantage in the good where there's a smaller distance between the two PPCs. So Italy has a comparative advantage in wine in this example.